I'm Dr. Moira Fitzpatrick, and welcome to the Daily Doc. We're going to continue today our discussion on brain health. So how do you know if you have brain inflammation? Well, there's certain symptoms you can begin to become aware of. And remember, awareness is the first step in change. So neuroinflammation can often be seen when you have brain fog, when you feel fatigued after you eat, when you have lowered brain endurance, when you have lowered brain focus, when you feel fatigued after you eat. And so, what are the causes of that? Well, one of the things we want to look at is we want to look at three different pathways. We want to look at the gut-brain axis. And we know that if there's a disturbance in the microbiome, that can contribute to inflammation. If you have food sensitivities, that can also contribute to inflammation. If you have a chronic upper respiratory infection, chronic sinus infection, you've got pathogens in that oral nasal cavity that has close contact to the brain. And if you have traumatic brain injury, that causes lots of inflammation. So then what happens? Well, there has to be a breach in the blood-brain barrier in order for that inflammation to affect the brain. And what are the primary causes of a breach in the blood-brain barrier? Well, we know chronic stress, alcohol, chronic exposure to toxic pollutants, high blood sugar, high homocysteine. And that may be the result of you taking inappropriate B vitamins for your genetics. So it's important to know your genetics so that you're taking the B vitamins that support you and keep your homocysteine low. Homocysteine is an independent inflammatory risk factor for cardiovascular disease. You also want to look at your diet, and poor diet can contribute to oxidative stress and, of course, chronic inflammation. So if there is a breach in the blood-brain barrier, then your brain is affected. And we know from the research on Alzheimer's that it's associated with a buildup of amyloid beta, which is a protein. And the function of amyloid beta typically is much like an antibiotic, except that it removes inflammation. But if there's chronic inflammation, then that buildup causes or may cause the amyloid beta to become sticky and attached to the neurons, and that damages the neurons, causing neurodegeneration. Now, the tau protein, part of its job is to move the amyloid beta out. But when amyloid beta builds up, then it phosphorylates the tau protein, or may phosphorylate the tau protein, and that causes neurofibrillary tangles. So you've got this combination of a buildup of amyloid beta and neurofibrillary tangles, and that contributes to destruction of the neurons. And when the neurons are destroyed, then you've got problems with the communication in the brain. So, key is you want to keep your blood-brain barrier intact. So how do you really know what's going on? Well, I highly recommend the Cyrex Lynx test. I've actually taken that test myself and put myself on a program for optimal brain function. So what contributes to Alzheimer's disease or dementia? Well, we know one is genetics. We know the other is a breach in the blood-brain barrier, and then there's environmental triggers, things such as pathogens and toxic pollutants. And so if we can identify some of those triggers, and we can identify whether or not we have a breach in the blood-brain barrier, we can begin to treat the cause and heal the blood-brain barrier and decrease inflammation not only in the brain, but also systemically. So, once you have those results, we can create a protocol with certain herbs and supplements to decrease the inflammation But the other thing that we can do that I've seen work much better than anything else is hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Because what does it do? It brings oxygen to the brain. And when you have oxygen coming to the brain, and we see it over and over and over again, those people with cognitive decline, problems in balance, they get better. The brain needs oxygen. And remember from yesterday, the brain needs oxygen, it needs glucose, and it needs nutrients. So, what I recommend you do during this holiday season is give yourself, give your parents, give your grandparents the gift of the Lynx test, and then to create a comprehensive treatment plan to heal the brain, to heal the inflammation in the body, and to live an incredible quality of life.